Hola, I am Diana, and this time I thought of talking about the process that I used to create my comic. It's a Nora Kind'a Vibe, exactly what's gonna be running in the background, a time lapse of the sixth page. If you want to know more about this comic and who is Nora and what's happening in her world and in her life, I will link below where you can check the comic itself. But let's move on to what we're actually going to talk about today, which is it's just me. How did I created this comic? And first I want to talk about why and how it appeared, which is the first step, the idea. It didn't start with the idea that I wanted to tell a story. It didn't start with an environment. It didn't start with inspiration. It started in a really dark time in my life. And I wanted to create a character that was going through something and then had to overcome it. So that was actually my first step. And it wasn't really, how to say, structured idea. It was just a character that I wanted her to go through something similar to what I was going through. Creating this character and solving her problems would actually work to solve mine in a way, which didn't, but it was an interesting journey to figure that out. So after I imagined the core of the idea, I went on rambling about other ideas, what could be added to this one, not just a insufferable character that is just going through a lot of things and doesn't have any layers to it. This character isn't me, it's just a person that I can relate to in a way. So that was the second step, naming a lot of ideas to narrow down exactly what I wanted to be. But first, I needed to have a lot of ideas. And what ended up happening was that I was trying to figure out ideas and ways to construct a nice narrative and a nice nice story for this character. And what ended up happening was doing a lot of research, and while doing research, having a lot of other ideas that would complement each other or just ruin the whole previous idea. So I had to kind of just make it everything chaotic so then I could organize and pick the ones that would make sense together. When I put it this way, it seems like I spent months of creating these ideas. I spent less than a month while drawing the character, while drawing Nora. I didn't even know she would have a dog and that the dog would be such a important part in her narrative. But it took me less than a month to actually figure it out, what was the path that I wanted for this story to be told. When I figured that out, I created a small animation series with Nora as a cartoon in 3D, which was it was a pain in the ass, right? Because it took a long time modeling, rigging, animating, storyboarding. There's a lot of things that come to creating a cartoon that it's not just something moving on the screen. Even though I'm still proud of it, it's not my best work, but I do really stand behind it till today. As I started to model the character, and this is part of the third step, which is narrowing down the idea, meaning I want this idea, now I have to structure it. So what I had to do was create bullet points of what I wanted the story to be and how I wanted the story to be laid out. And that led me to write bullet points for 12 seasons of a cartoon, which was interesting, but a bit overwhelming considering that everything that I know about animation is self-taught. So 12 seasons would be a challenge. As far as I liked to create that animation series, after a year of creating it and after releasing the first series, which is, by the way, available on my YouTube channel, all the first series with 5 or 6 episodes, I understood I wanted to do more than that and I wanted to create more depth to the story. And because of that, I found myself understanding that I wanted more from this story, from this character, from this world, and it wouldn't fit everything in the cartoon, and probably it would be portrayed badly. So I started reapproaching this new idea, this new story, this new world as a comic. and that gave me the idea to mix the comic with a novel. Because also as a comic, it's not that a cartoon is less work than a comic, it's not that a comic is less work than a cartoon, and it's not that both of them are less work than writing a novel. But it just felt right to just shift it, all this work, to create a novel and portray certain parts in a comic, because that's what I like to do. I like to draw, I like to tell stories, so it felt good to just shift it to that idea. Meaning now that this fourth step was outlining the story that I want to tell, which was quite similar of scripting the 12 seasons that I wanted for the cartoon. I took a lot of ideas from those 12 seasons, from all of those episodes that I wanted to tell, to actually outline the novel. But scripting for something that is fully visual is completely different to script for something that is going to be mixed visual with words, if I can say it like that. And when I say outlining, what I mean by that is lay down in pieces of paper, literally, because even though I use a lot of technology to do my work, I like to write in paper. So I just grabbed a notebook and started to write small sections of what I wanted for each chapter to happen, what I wanted for the story to, how I wanted the story to evolve, and what plots I wanted, when I wanted them, and where I wanted the climaxes of each section of the book, which alone was also a little bit overwhelming. For a cartoon animation, I ended up with 12 seasons. For a novel, which is a mix of a comic, I ended up with 100 something chapters. This brings me to the fifth step, which is actually writing the novel and drawing the comic. I'm doing those at the same time. I'm still in this step, which is production, I would say, because I already went by the pre-production, and I revisit several times just to align some thoughts, align some points of what I want, so I don't lose my ways with a lot of ideas, because that can happen and that can be really overwhelming. So I come back to the pre-production just to align myself with the path that I actually want to follow. I ended up understanding while I'm writing the novel that Nora was supposed to be the protagonist, right? And ended up to be, she's still the main protagonist, she's still the main character, but she's part of a main crew, so to speak. So we don't have only her point of view, we have at least 5 characters that are really layered and really important to this whole story, which could have been a bad thing, but so far I think it's working quite well. At the beginning, when I started to add characters, because I needed things to happen to this world and not just Nora, when I started to add characters, it can be scary to just try to understand how I can add a different character and make that character be completely different than any other. But after 400 pages, those characters gained a life of their own. And this brings me to a step which is commitment and discipline, which has to be hand in hand with all the steps that you're going through with any type of project. Because, writing 400 pages, I did essays before for school, but not to tell a story. I always wrote a lot of small stories, short stories, but never something that I would commit so much to end up with so many chapters and so many pages. But here we are. Anyway, moving on to the sixth step. Constantly learning, writing, how to write, constantly learn how to write and how to lay out a comic. Of course, we can have our own idea of how to do things, but it's always interesting to know how other people do stuff, understand where we want to take inspirations from and where we want to take some technical advices, and from whom are we taking those from. So this is a step that I will put hand in hand with the fifth, which is constantly evolving skills and constantly learning, and humble ourselves to understand that what we are doing can be good, but it can always be better. And also understanding that what it can always be better doesn't mean that it has to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be good for everyone. That's why when I'm writing, for instance, in writing we have a lot of processes. One of them is creating the first draft, and then go back after finishing the first draft, meaning finishing the whole writing of the book. We go back to actually edit that first draft. So what ends up what sometimes happens is I write a page and then I go back and re-edit that page. And I have to stop myself sometimes, like not spending more than 30 minutes editing that page or editing a few pages. Because if I spend more than half an hour editing that same page, I know that I won't get out of that loop because it can always be better. So these are my steps so far, what I've been doing, what has been working, which is committing to the idea, creating what I think is a really good story, a compelling story, not only through Nora's eyes, but a lot of other characters. And it works well in a way that as an artist, a lot of people have trouble in finishing a lot of ideas or start a lot of new ideas or go through art blogs. And when there's such a big project that you can commit to, this is actually a good commitment because it makes you evolve your skills within the same project, and you can compare back to where you were before and where you are now. However, another thing that it's important to say is that I'm not only working in this comic at the moment, because I do like to expand my skills to several projects. So this can be relatable in two fronts. So if we have a commitment to a project like this and only do this project, it can be good because we can start and end and develop and evolve with just one project in hand, and we have already something measurable, something that we went through and it's finished. But if you're a person that actually wants to be creating a lot of stuff, you have a lot of stuff, and you have a lot of ideas, you have a lot of things that you want to create, I would advise you, if you will, to pick 2 or 3 of those ideas and projects that you want to create and start, and then just balance it out to push all 3 or all 2 or all 5, whatever, how many projects you want to commit to create. Push all of them at the same time so you can jump around and refresh your memory each time that refresh your skills, refresh whatever you want, because you can be creating a story in one side, you can be creating an illustration on the other side, and you can be creating an animation on the other side, or you can even be creating a music or whatever your heart desires. But it's nice to jump around to just refresh with new ideas, and the projects can give these many projects can give ideas to the other projects that you are creating. So it kind of influence each other, and it's kind of a symbiosis of creativity, a lot of imagination, creations that will only bring good if you know how to organize them. Because if there is no organization, can be a lot of chaos as well and overwhelming. So anyway, if you know that you're a person that is easily overwhelmed, then just stick to one project and commit to that project. As for what I think should be the next steps, is the 7th step, which is finishing the first draft of the novel, finishing the comic pages, and then do the editing, revisiting all the things that were created before. I would say after finishing, give it like a week of resting, if you will. Probably you would need just a day, or probably you will need a month to come back to it. But give it a rest and then come back to editing either the novel, either the comic, or both of them. What I like to think about is that the first draft of something, you're creating that same thing for yourself. When you come back to edit it, you're creating that thing for the person or for the people that will see it or hear it or whatever media that you're using to create your own stuff. And after editing, which will bring us to the eighth step, share it if you feel like it, or put it in a drawer if you feel like you don't want to, if you feel like it's only for your eyes to see. But at least you can put it in a drawer and say, I started, I finished it, I polished it, and now I can decide if I want to share or if I want to keep it for myself. So that's the eighth step. It's the how to seal this project, like how to say, this is a complete project. I can decide to come back to it. I can decide to share it. I can decide to just leave it as is. And then there's the ninth step, which would be starting a new one, or understanding what's the longevity of the project that you just created. If you want to continue creating within the same project, within the same world, or you want to move on to other things. So I haven't reached those steps yet. As you know, as I've said before, I'm still in the fifth and sixth step. So if you wish to stick around and see where this goes, you know what to do. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll be here. Now, if you made it this far, this is a bonus. I left all the pages that I have created so far for Nora, for It's a Nora Kind'a Vibe, this comic. So this cover was actually created when I thought I would only have 5 main people for my story, and there's a lot more. But still, these people these characters that you see in these characters that you see in this cover is Nora at the center, Barn on top of her. Then you see another girl on the bottom, which is Audra, and you see beside her, on her left side, you see Fritz, which is her brother, and you see on her right side Sander, which is Nora's father. Now, I have a small script of a synopsis, if you will. I'll be reading it and I'll be passing the pages that I have so far. And if you want, you can come back to it and pause and read the pages. If not, you can just click the links below. I'll link it below where you can actually see the webcomic, where you can access it, and where you can see all the pages that I have so far. And whatever is in the comics you will see there, and whatever is in the novel, written as the novel, I will resume it to fill up the gaps between the actual comic with the actual comics within the story that's been written. It's a Nora Kind'a Vibe. In a post-war world where water is lethal and tattoos are necessary to survive, Nora lives a normal life as a tattoo artist with her 3 best friends. 2 of them raised as siblings, and the other is Barn, her dog. She's content with her life, freedom to have fun, and fulfilled with a job in service to a greater good. However, something that happened years ago is now coming back. Is this good or bad news? It's whatever it needs to be. It's Nora Kind'a Vibe. Now please enjoy the rest of the pages. I hope you liked it so far. I hope you like this kind of videos, and I'll see you in the next one.